Welcome to the SaaS Revolution Show. I'm your host, Alex Theuma. Delighted to be joined today by Jonny White, who is the CEO and founder of Ticket Tailor. Welcome, Jonny.
Hey, Alex. Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great to have you on the podcast. Finally, I think we've been speaking for a few years. We've been coming to a few SaaStocks, and we've finally got you on the podcast to share your story. So delighted about that. Looks a little bit where it's an Indian summer here in the UK. So like I mentioned before we started recording, I'm a little bit sweaty in the podcast studio. It looks cooler and more zen where you are, especially I think the picture is giving off sort of like cooler vibes behind you.
Hopefully that'll cool you down just by looking at the picture.
Fingers crossed. Where is the where is the picture? Is it a real one or is it a painting?
And it's a painting, and it's in New Zealand on the South Island. And we're on holiday there and saw this picture and absolutely loved it, which is a rare thing for us to do, but you know, sometimes you see a picture on holiday and you just love it. So
very cool. Well, I've like never been to New Zealand. I think you've got young kids. I've got young kids as well. Always kind of felt that maybe it's a little bit too far to travel with the young ones, but more with the jet lag side of things. So was this a pre-kids trip?
Yeah, this was a pre-kids thing, but I did go over to Australia with the kids actually. We have family in Australia, so went over to Australia earlier this year with the kids, and I can tell you it is a real challenge trying to get any kind of sleep, especially when you have like a 1-year-old with you on the plane. I can
imagine. All right, good stuff. Well, Jonny, we always start the show. We get to know the guests a little bit better. So let's start off with who is Jonny White?
Yeah, so as you just mentioned, I'm a father of 2, and I'm also founder and CEO of a company called Ticket Tailor. Ticket Tailor is an events ticketing platform that helps event organizers sell tickets online. And I started it back in 2011. We've always been bootstrapped straight from the off. And it's been a pretty exciting journey, actually, from like day one, being quite young, naive, not that business savvy. And I'm a software engineer background, and really started off as a sideshow. And then, along that journey, sold it 2 years in to Time Out, which was really exciting. Got to work there for a couple of years, and then bought it back from Time Out, and then grew the company, built out a team, and then to where we are here today, which is we're a team of about 25 people. We're about 5-6 million ARR, and we're doing about 1 million tickets a month through the platform. And actually just found out earlier this week that we've been listed in the Fast Growth 50 list, which is the fastest growing companies in London. So we just made that list this year, which is really exciting as well. So it's been a long journey of steady growth, and it's been some really interesting things along the way. So hopefully I can share some of those things today.
No, definitely. Love to dig into that. So I guess a couple of interesting things to kind of pick out there. So first of all, decision to bootstrap. You've always bootstrapped. Why did you decide to do that? Have you ever thought about taking venture money, or even have had like some conversations around that? Because I guess probably now you're becoming pretty interesting for some VCs. But like, why the initial decision? And talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So initially, it wasn't a decision. It was just complete naivety that I didn't even think. I was a software engineer, and I was thinking, I could build some software that I can resell. What do I need money for? It didn't even cross my mind I need funding. This was back in 2010 when I was starting to build it before it actually launched. And, it was when I was around by Old Street, and the tech scene was kicking off, and I was going to meetups and pitching Ticket Tailor, at these meetups. And someone asked a question saying, are you bootstrapped? And I didn't even know what the word meant. And then they explained to me, it's like, are you doing it? Are you not getting any funding? And then I thought, why would I get funding? And then realized that's basically, what everyone does. And then thought, okay, well, that's what I should do. When I got to a certain revenue point, I thought I should go and get some funding. And I remember I made a pitch deck pitching for investment for £400,000, but not even knowing what I was going to spend it on. As I said, like kind of very naive position of just doing something because that's what people were doing. And today, kind of very grateful that we haven't taken funding, because we've just got so much freedom now in terms of what we do. So always been profitable all the way along, and did think I needed to do funding at one point because that's what every company does. But I guess we've chosen like a slower path, and and have really enjoyed staying that way. So we're very we're very much going to be bootstrapped. If we get funding, then we've messed up somewhere. We need to course correct. So yeah, that's
you never know. I mean, we'll see if we remember that if we read, in a few years' time that you're taking on 50 million or something like that. We'll remember this podcast, and I think there's nothing also wrong with that. I know a lot of people that have been, bootstrapping their business for many years, right? And eventually at some point they decided, when they got to 20, 30 million ARR, that they wanted to become $100 million business, and that they felt probably the best way to do that was then to take on some additional capital. But again, I think like goals change, and it's something that we will speak about in a bit. But something also sort of interesting was that you sold the business really early. I think at 2K MRR.
Yeah,
I think that's what you said, to time out. So a big company comes in, buys you. You're at 2K MRR, but then you bought it back. Like, tell us a little bit of that story. Like, why did you sell like so early, and then how did you come to the decision to buying this back?
When I first launched it, my initial goal was to get to 2K MRR. That was there's the amount in my head that meant that I could focus on this more. People have that question of like, when can I go full time on this? That was my full time point of 2K MRR, and I didn't really have a plan beyond that, to be honest. I often think very much in the short term, and I didn't have a plan when I got to 2K MRR, and that was when I actually was started to think about, maybe I need investment. Is that what, and so kind of like wasting time on something that I didn't actually, it wasn't something I was really into. And then got this email from Time Out, and it came across initially as like, we want to do ticketing, can we be a customer? And, as one man band thinking this, I'm going to go along with this, but there's a high chance that this could be a waste of time for all of us, because can we support a company that big at this stage in the business? And then the more we got talking, the more it kind of transitioned into an acquisition type conversation, which was really cool. It was really exciting from my perspective, to be having these conversations. And the more initially, I wasn't thinking, I want to sell. That wasn't my, that wasn't how I was feeling in the first part of the process, because this thing had just started getting going, had a bit of momentum, and I was quite excited about the future, even though I didn't really know what to do next. But the more we started talking, the more I realized actually there's really good opportunity here. Like, one, I didn't have much experience of working with people. I came straight out of university, got into freelance web development, and then launched this business. And so, one of the draws was I can get some experience here working with people. And then the other thing was like, thinking it's at an early stage in the journey that I could do one of these again. I could go to Time Out, get that experience under my belt, and I can reset and restart and do another business. So that was kind of the motivation. And then obviously, being around that time, being a young person, and also being in that environment of TechCrunch, talking about who's got funded, who's being acquired, there was an element of like, this will be exciting, this will be good for my ego and my status. And on the day actually when it came to signing, it was a very long process. It was a really exciting bit at the beginning of the negotiations, and then like a very long drawn out legal process. And then on the day of signing, it was literally just me and a lawyer in a West End lawyer's office, and sign the documents, and there's like no one to celebrate with, because it's kind of just me. And it was a massive anti-climax at that point. There wasn't any PR announcement or anything like that. And so that part of it was like, I'm glad I didn't do it only for that reason, because if that was the reason, then I would have been very, very disappointed at the kind of like, what I thought would happen, but actually what the reality was,
And I guess looking back now, so probably one of the best decisions you've made in terms of buying it back, would you say?
Yeah, I think it was so lucky to be able to do that. I think to have that opportunity to be able to buy it back at the end. So after 2 years of working there, or a year and a half it was, I realized kind of like I'd done my time. The integration wasn't going to happen. The Ticket Tailor integration wasn't going to happen at Time Out as what was planned. And I handed my notice, and they are anxious about the fact they've got this business and they don't, I want to leave as quickly as possible, but they don't want to cut my notice period short because of the fact they've got this business and they don't know what to do with it. So that gives me the idea of like, oh, well, let's make an offer here to buy it back. And sure enough, they're like, yeah, this is great. We can just make this happen. So that was brilliant. And it was massive luck and an absolutely like amazing decision, because it was where it was when I sold it. It was at 2K MRR still. The business is in very much the same shape. And yeah, I was more experienced, had a bit of money from the sale, and, had a whole, like a reset, 2 years of not running a business. So nice to have that break. You don't really get that opportunity. So I could come into it with a real fresh head and then start to think about, okay, well, what is the next chapter of Ticket Tailor?
Maybe, we could probably spend a lot of time on this, but from a couple of like quick key lessons that you've implemented. So when you bought it back, and so this would have been, well, let me do the math here. Was it 2014, something like that?
2014, yeah.
Yeah, and so you bought it back, and now it's 2023. You're at 5 million in revenue ARR. So you went from 2K MRR to now 5 million. What are some of the things like that you've done to kind of help you get there?
Well, one of the things is obviously kind of compound growth. So just like it's a long time, and the market has grown a lot. So that, yeah. It would have been hard to turn that around in like less time. Obviously, other companies have done that sort of thing, so it's definitely possible. So, but I think in terms of the things that I've done, so so for a whole portion of that journey from that point to now was still me on my own, but working with other bootstrappers in an office, and we would share growth hacks and tips and so on. And so there was a bunch of things in those days which were kind of like move the needle in that realm, from like 2K to 8K, and those sorts of things were things like integrations, like we did an integration on the WordPress plugin directory. And that's the kind of thing that moved the needle at that point. Mm-hmm. And then there came a point when I got stuck, and no matter what I did, I didn't feel like I could move the needle. I felt like I'd reached my limit as a kind of individual. And so from there, really that was the point at which it was about building out the team and then thinking about doing business in a really different way, investing in our brand, investing in our team, and investing in that scale side of things as well. So,
well, I think that's a good segue into that, because as you say now, look, 5 million ARR plus. Recently, or even this week, you said just listed on the Fast Growth 50 in London, and you are a growth business, and you've gone from being a lifestyle business to a growth business. So let's talk a little bit about why you decided to do that, because I'm sure we've got many listeners who are running lifestyle businesses, and actually nothing wrong with that. And running a growth business, it is a different thing, and it comes with different sets of challenges and so on. But I guess let's start with, why did you make that decision to move from lifestyle to growth? Like when did a switch just kind of flick? Did you wake up one morning and it's like, okay, I want to build out a team, I want to get to 10 million, 100 million, or whatever?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it was a long, drawn out decision actually. And back when I was running it as a lifestyle business, I love my life. I was, as I say, in the office with my mates who are other bootstrappers. I got a dog. The revenue was a decent place. At one point I was like, I can do this forever. I could hit the pause button on 8K MRR and, this would be great. I'm set. But, a year goes by or so, and I get stuck on things, as I mentioned earlier. And I remember redesigning the website 3 times over. I'd done it once, I wasn't happy with it. Did it again, I wasn't happy with it. And it's just, what am I doing? And so at that point, a friend of mine who was a designer, he had quit his job, and I said, "Oh, come and help me redesign the website as a contractor." And he did, and he came in and he made loads of decisions and did loads of great work. And I was like, "This is amazing!" Like I've gone from having to think through every little bit of detail to now loads of stuff happening and it being better than I could have done it. And so that was a kind of taster of what it could be like if I started to hire people. But obviously was scared about losing this freedom, losing this lifestyle where I didn't have the stakeholder of a team. My only stakeholder were the customers, and it was like, that was quite a freeing position to be in. But yeah, offered him a job part-time as a designer, and he accepted. And so that was the kind of the shift at that point, was like, okay, well now I have, the start of a team, and I've got this new responsibility, and I need to think about that as well as think about customers. And it kind of created a bit of a mind shift at that point. Obviously that was just one person at that point, but then we hired a head of tech and hired engineering, and we made these hires that were so with engineering, they're quite easy decisions in the sense that we knew we had loads of features we wanted to build. It's low risk in the sense that also an area that I understand very well as understand very well. So I knew what I wanted, I knew what kind of people, and I knew, what I was looking for. So kind of the first, 2 years of going from lifestyle to kind of transitioning into a growth business was really in these kind of like dipping my toe in, I suppose. And it wasn't until a point actually when I started working with a coach, and the coach did this exercise where he said, okay, where do you want to be in 2 years' time? And we did this thing where we stepped back, right? And I've had this vision of where I want to be in 2 years' time. And as I say, I'm quite a short-term thinker, so this was such a helpful exercise. And we stepped back and we stepped back and we stepped back and stepped back. And then it's like, hang on a minute, I need to hire a lot more people. I need all these other roles filling that I'd been quite anxious about hiring, and actually had attempted but kind of got wrong because I didn't really know what I wanted and so on. And so that was the point when I was like, okay, we need to build out a leadership team and properly be more strategic and think more like a business than think like we're building software, to fulfill customer demand, to think about those other things. So there's a real point there of thinking, okay, we're a proper business now, and we need to invest in the business as well as investing in, what the customers want.
Was it hard for you? Maybe like some of the challenges are from being this solo founder with no people, no team to kind of manage, to all of a sudden making your first hire, building out a leadership team, now a team of 20 plus. Has that been hard? Or, often we hear from founders, some of the hardest thing can be people, managing people, and just kind of interested from your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really hard. One of the hardest things I've done, but it's gradual. It's happening over a number of years. So, and the things managing was really difficult. And my experience of working with people, as I say, was that 2 years at Time Out. Getting the coach was a real game changer. The coach could really help me, figure out how to manage people and how to get the most out of people, and absolutely transformed how I work. And then the other thing I was going to say was that there's a really good point I had in my mind. Oh yeah, this is it. When you're working on your own, you're so instinctive. There's no communication. You don't need to think about values, you don't need to think about mission, you don't need to think about anything like that, because it's all ingrained in your mind. You don't need to articulate it in words. It's just there. And so when you get out of bed every day, you know why you're doing it. You know what makes sense. You know how to prioritize. All this stuff just happens. And the communication, you don't need to have a meeting to talk about anything, and you don't need to have values to align on anything. And so that was a really important part of it, was trying to decode which bits of my instinct was helpful and like form the DNA of what made Ticket Tailor successful. So it's like trying to pull that out, trying to put it into words, and then trying to get that across to other people, and then get people to buy into that as well. So spent a lot of time thinking about values, thinking about mission, thinking about purpose. And that has been so important. In particular as well, like getting that right before making those key hires as well is super important, because one of the things that I'm really passionate about is business for good. And at that stage, it was mostly words. We're doing some stuff around the idea of business for good, but we were so early on that actually it was mostly words. And what I needed to do was articulate that and get people to buy into it and join it. A kind of a previous version of me would have felt like I needed to have done all the stuff for people to want to join, but actually people want to join because they want to do that stuff. They want to be part of it. So it's really important to be able to articulate that and kind of create the sell for it to make key hires, which then, and then all that stuff starts happening, and then it's real. So it's that kind of like manifesting that business for good and what that could be to get that excitement going to hire those people. But there are definitely a few. Yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to say, can you give some examples of like how you would do that? So from, I guess maybe whether it's, and I'm just putting words out there, just examples, but from the company website to the job description, through the interview process to you have the team in place. How often are you talking about the purpose, the mission, the vision, the values? What is the cadence there that gets people, keeps them going, on the daily basis, deliver the mission for Ticket Tailor?
Yeah, so on those early hires, I think it was kind of, something in the job ad, but then it was really about when meeting the people and then just like me letting loose and letting it all come out of my heart kind of thing. And I think people then relate to that. So that was what it was like in the early days. These days we're much further along on it, and it comes through across all of our stuff. So, for every ticket we sell through the platform, we donate a penny to climate causes. So we talk about that loads on social media. We talk about it to our customers because they're the ones selling the tickets, so we can celebrate with them that they're creating this. And then every year we do this certified B Corp, and part of that you have to, I've just got one here actually. You have to create an impact report, and this is a document, doesn't have to be printed out, this one is, but we have it on PDF as well, which kind of talks about all the stuff you're doing, all the stuff besides profit, like what's going on in the business, what you're doing about planet, what you're doing about people. And we use this loads. We use this in interview processes. We use it with customers, and it really helps us shine and stand out against kind of the competition.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, obviously great to hear that you know about a couple of the key things there, the decisions from moving from lifestyle to growth, how you've done it in building out the team and prioritizing sort of purpose. Before we go into the sort of quickish fire round, like and again, I'm sure there are some founders out there, whether they're technical or not, that are running lifestyle businesses, but maybe are thinking about running a growth business. What would you say to them, like any advice or do's and don'ts about maybe the way to go about that?
Yeah, I think the mistakes that I've made are not being confident in what it is that I want, and then wasting time with other people in terms of hiring and so times of trying to hire for a role and going through a long interview process with them and then changing my mind at the last minute, things like that. That is my biggest regrets kind of thing, is that kind of thing. So I'd say definitely it would be about working with a coach or whoever, maybe it's mates as well. Like if you've got friends who are in a similar kind of work, to really understand what it is that you actually want to achieve, and then that will help you, because that's the thing that I didn't know. I just I guess it's that classic thing of like doing it because you feel like you should, and that's perhaps where I started doing it. It's like got to a certain point and felt like, oh, I should be doing this. I should be going to a growth business. But
was it? Did you decide to get a coach, and then the coach helped you decide to go to be a growth business, or did you decide to be a growth business and got a coach and then helped you map out the plan?
I'd say I got the coach first. Yeah, got the coach. Around the time I was building out the engineering team without strategically thinking I want to get to a certain point. It was more like, oh, we've got a team because it made sense to hire engineers to help us get to a certain point. But it wasn't till then it was getting the coach, and then the coach was like, really helping me understand where I was going. Why am I doing it? What's it all for?
And how often do you meet with the coach? Is it like every 2 weeks, every month, or?
So at the moment, I'm not actually working with the coach, but during this period, I was meeting twice a month, doing 2 hours every 2 weeks, and that was the right kind of rhythm for me. And then actually had the same coach work with everyone in the leadership team. So when I hired out the leadership team, then we all worked with the same coach actually, which was brilliant for alignment. People could have used other coaches if they wanted to, but it turned out everyone wanted to use the same one. So that was pretty cool.
Very cool. All right, we're going to move on to the quickest fire round now, Jonny. So what one thing has moved the needle the most for you in your career?
Well, we've just been talking about it. I'm going to have to say getting a coach or even like working with other bootstrappers, having those other people around to question you and to help you see it from a different perspective. Yeah, no, definitely. I extol the values of having a coach, but also support network of not only peers, but in general, a support network of people that can help progress you. Definitely.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
It's just this question actually is, who are you afraid of failing in front of? Confidence has definitely held me back over the years. And this question really put it into perspective of, well, why am I afraid of failing? It's usually to do with someone else's perspective. And when you ask that question, you can really break it down and think, actually, do you know what? I'm not afraid of failing in front of anyone. So let's do this, So that was a really good question for me that really helped me build out confidence.
What's the biggest failure you've made and lesson learned?
Yeah, I'd have to go back to those kind of hiring mistakes in the process of not strategically building out the team, of where, gone through a hiring process and let someone down, wasted their time, or even worse, hired and then it not work out throughout the probation period. That has been the biggest failure. And the lesson learned is to figure out what I want better, like spend more time doing it up front and not letting someone else carry the expense of that.
Hiring mistakes very common, and can I don't know, really eat at you, but impact the growth of the business. But you kind of learn from these things, or hopefully you do, and you don't keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
Hardest thing about bootstrapping?
Yeah, so at this stage of our business, the hardest thing is keeping a lean mindset. We're doing very well, and we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot or get complacent or anything. We want to stay lean. We want to keep really efficient, and we want to stay a small team. We're capped at 25 people. Is like we don't want to get bigger than that. So it's constantly keeping this mindset of, just because we can buy a tool to do something, do we need to do it, for example? Or just because we can hire someone to solve this problem, should we hire that person? Can we solve it in another way? Can we automate it? Can we ignore it? Really keeping that lean mindset that you just get you have to do it when you're starting out, because you've got no money and you've got very little time. And as you get more options, it's harder to keep that mindset. But preserving that is something that we spend a lot of time thinking about.
Very cool. You are coming back to SaaStock in Dublin next month. It's 16th to the 18th of October. Speaking for the first time, which I'm excited about. I'm sure you are as well, on the Bootstrap stage. So we last year we introduced the Bootstrap stage. We've got a Bootstrap stage. It's coming back by popular demand. You'll be speaking. Tell us a little bit about what you'll be talking about.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I'm doing a talk. It's called The Power of Purpose: Unlock New Growth, Discover Your Why, and Build a Company to be Proud of. So it's about setting our ambitions even further than revenue. So I think what I really want to share from the Ticket Tailor story is how, we are a growing business. We are doing well from a revenue perspective, but we're also integrating purpose into the business, into every way we can. And it just changes the game, really. And I really want to tell that story, and I really want to give people ideas and inspiration about how they might be able to think about how purpose can fit into their business and their organization, to see if they can benefit from the things that we're seeing.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to seeing you in person in Dublin and watching your talk as well. Jonny, you've been a great guest on the show. Where can people find you online if they want to reach out? Also Ticket Tailor, if they're interested in what it does.
Yeah, cool. So you can find Ticket Tailor at tickettailor.com. Check it out, sign up for free, and give it a go for all your events. And you can find me online on LinkedIn. Just search for Jonny White and connect with me on there. But it's been an absolute pleasure to be here. Really looking forward to SaaStock, and learned so much from all the talks last year that we're taking quite a few of the team out as well. So that's exciting.
Awesome. Good stuff. Yeah, looking forward to seeing that. Well, thank you so much, Jonny White, CEO, founder of Ticket Tailor. Congrats on the great success, the growth, getting on the Fast Growth 50. Looking forward to seeing more. Have you back on the show when you're at 10 million, and we'll talk about what you did then.
Great.
But I'm sure it won't be long. All right. Cheers,
Thanks
Jonny.
very much, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.